You're live.
Thank you. All right, Chair Collins.
Hello and welcome back after our standard summer hiatus and a summer unlike many others. I will call to order the Library Advisory Board meeting of Wednesday, September 16th, in the year 2020. I will start with a roll call. Please acknowledge your presence. Chair Sheila Collins, here. Vice Chair Sheila Raymond.
Present, thank you.
Board Member Allegra Fullerton. We understand she's not present. New Board Member Frida Hartman.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Marna McClendon. We understand she is not present. Janet Smigilski.
Present.
Ruth Wax.
Present.
All right. We'll move then to the minutes of the regular meeting of June 25th, 2020. Any discussion about those minutes?
I move to approve the minutes. This is Janet Smigilski.
Thank you, Janet. Do I hear a second?
A second, Sheila Raymond.
Thank you. Those board minutes of June 25th, 2020 are approved, assuming we have the vote, which I neglected to do previously. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Then my statement is true. Those minutes are approved. We'll then move to the regular meeting agenda. And first of all, I'd like to recognize a new member of the board, and that is Frida Hartman. We're very pleased to have you join us, Frida, and I hope you'll take a few minutes just to tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and your interest in joining the board.
Sure. Thank you, Sheila. Well, thank you all very much for giving me such a warm welcome to the library board. I'm very excited to be a member and to have the opportunity to serve the city of Scottsdale on this board. I've lived in Scottsdale for about 14 years, coming from Maryland, the Washington, D.C. area of Maryland, where I also was very active in the library community and served on the library board there in Montgomery County, and also really developed my love for serving and working with the community. And we had a very active community there. So I'm really looking forward to working on this board. And I thank you all very much for, again, your very kind welcome to me.
Well, we are so pleased to have you with us. And she was modest in extolling her past experiences. She has been a past library board chair. And also I've learned that Frida had a significant role in Friends of the Library organization. So I've already connected she and Janet. I know Janet will be talking about that later in the meeting. Again, welcome.
Thank you.
I'd like to foreshadow the departure of two of our August members, one expected, one perhaps unexpected, as we believe that there will be a council meeting to identify new members the night before our October meeting. That will actually be too close to have them present. So we hope that Allegra, who is not re-upping for a second term due to her full-time return to the workplace, and also Ruth Wax, who excitedly is moving to a new home, but that new home happens to be outside of Scottsdale in a nearby community. So we will lose both of those members after one term, and I will look forward to having the chance to formally acknowledge their exemplary service and to present them with virtual flowers at our October meeting. With that, we will move then to the director's report, which I see is on the screen. And Kira, you're up.
All right. Thank you very much, Chair Collins. And again, everyone, welcome. And thank you for logging in early and bearing with us. As Amy mentioned before, while these virtual meetings are very convenient, we understand safe at this time. Sometimes they can pose some technological difficulties, but I think we might have those all ironed out. So we're excited to jump in, welcome you all, and get started. So I am going to start with the director's report. I try to do a nice fun fall theme here. No, of course, as I just said that I thought we had everything figured out. There we go. Library and COVID-19. I am going to be touching extensively on that within the annual report since COVID-19 hit our community right around March, but I didn't want to neglect to mention that in the library director's report. So there is going to be a substantial section of our annual review where we will cover how COVID-19 has impacted the library and what the library has done to help our community get through this health crisis. Right now, and as a result of COVID-19, I did want to make sure that all of our library board members were aware of the library's current hours of operation. I'm not going to read through this slide verbatim. I know you all have it electronically, but just in case you are getting members of the community asking about the library hours, here they are. And there really was I don't want to say a lot, but we did adjust hours several times as we were trying to figure out the best way to work with some limited resources as a result of uncertain economy while serving the public the safest way that we could. So this is what we have come up with. This seems to be working. And really with that, having our two main large branches open on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays and Saturdays so people can come in, browse the collection. That has been working. People have been pretty respectful of the safety protocols in place. And then of course we have the curbside pickup here at Civic Center that happens on Tuesdays and Thursdays when the branch is closed. Same with Mustang Library. And our northern branches, Appaloosa and Arabian, are drive-through service only at this time. So they are drive-through service Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 6. I apologize. I noticed that got cut off. Friday and Saturday, 1 to 5. We are prepared as a library system to maintain this schedule, and we have personnel to support this schedule through the ending of the fiscal year. Of course, I think we all hope that COVID-19 continues, the numbers continue to trend the right way, the economy recovers nicely, and if we can, we certainly will open up branches as appropriate. Right now, this is what we're prepared to operate with through the ending of this fiscal year. Okay, Open Plus technology, and again, there's going to be some more discussion on this, but I did want to let all of you know, and there's a little asterisk next to the Open Plus because we have been fielding, and you may as board members be fielding some concerns about Arabian and Appaloosa Library branches being closed. They do offer drive-through, but people are recognizing that both Civic Center and Mustang have open building hours, and we have had some questions and concerns about why isn't Arabian and Appaloosa open. And the answer to that right now is really we've got limited personnel that we are working with. And this right now, based on the higher gate counts at Mustang and Civic Center, those two branches really serve a large population of our community. So those are the buildings that are open. Again, we did our best to complement that service up north with drive-through service. But the good news is, and I have mentioned Open Plus technology in the past, we recently received approval to install Open Plus technology at Appaloosa Library. And in a nutshell, Open Plus will give access to library users. They'll give access to the building. Once they go through a process, you get a special Open Plus card. We're working out the details with this, so I don't have everything in front of me, but you'll get an Open Plus card. You can swipe into Appaloosa Library. You can browse the collection. You can use the computers. You can use the self-check machines. You basically have access to the library branch. This is a definite new technology, relatively new, but with the COVID-19, a lot of public library systems are using Open Plus to be able to offer a solution to exactly what we're experiencing. Reductions in budgets, concerns about safety, how do you manage, and this technology will allow us to open up a building. The intent of this is to be able to open up a library branch without employees in the branch. We had to involve several partners in this to get approval to do this. One of those was the municipal security manager for the city of Scottsdale. As you might imagine, there were some concerns about, wait, you're going to open up a library without city employees in it. What is that going to look like? What that's going to look like is You'll have access control via your Open Plus library card. There'll be a process that you have to go through to get that special card so that you understand the responsibility that you're taking on. You will be on camera. So part of this Open Plus is there will be cameras installed in Apopka Library. So we will know who is scanning in. You will be on camera. And those cameras and that footage is monitored by the City of Scottsdale's municipal security staff. So that will happen on that end. We're also treating this as a pilot solution. And because we have staff, city employees working the drive-through at Appaloosa, there will be employees in the building. They will not be out at service points. They will not be on the floor, but they will be in the building. They will be managing the drive-through. So we're going to see how this works. And we just got approval for this about 2 weeks ago. So we are right at the stage working with our purchasing department to get a contract in place. And our goal is to hopefully have this installed up and running between 10 and 12 weeks, maybe sooner if we can. So I will make this a separate agenda item in the future once we have some more details. But I did want to let you know this is our solution to meet the need for our northern community to be able to have access to a library branch. Right now, at this time, we do not have plans to open up Arabian Library, but if this Open Plus is successful, we are hoping that maybe we can explore how that might be able to help us with Arabian Library as we move into the future and navigate through COVID-19 and how our economy is, budgets, and safety guidelines and health. So just wanted to give all of you that exciting news about Open Plus.
Kira, this is Sheila. Could I interrupt with a question?
You sure can, although remember with the director's report, we're not supposed to get off topic. So, but if it's just general, of course.
My only question is this technology being used at other area libraries?
It certainly is. Great question. And when we were doing the research before implementing, one of the libraries that we worked with and talked with was Ventura County in California. So the library director there shared her experiences with Open Plus, and they very much are set in a very busy setting. They use Open Plus and they have not had a single issue. And Mandy can jump on and correct me if I'm wrong, but they've been using it, I think, for several years now, 3 to 4 at least, with no problems or issues. So great question. I also wanted to give an update on the 2020 summer reading program. As expected, due to COVID-19, buildings being closed, our numbers were down. I'm going to use my cursor and I hope you can see it here. In 2020, total registered 2,775. That is down 63% compared to last year. Total number completed, 1,660, which is down 39% last year. So while we're sad about those numbers, we're not necessarily surprised. It's just harder to run that program with so much going on in the community. But we do hope that 2021, we can paint a better picture. So just wanted to give everybody an update on the summer reading program. And you can see by this chart, which I snipped right out of our statistics, we keep very close track of the numbers and people participating, and so we can monitor the success of our programs. One of the other items I wanted to share that we're very proud about here in the library system is the library staff has really been supporting other areas of the city through COVID-19. As part of the economic concerns, really the city has been very careful about filling positions, hiring, as you can imagine, as we try to save money to be prepared for the future. So when there is a vacant position in the city, we have been deploying library staff to help support other areas. And I just listed out some of the areas where we have library staff that are supporting. We have one of our staff is in the city manager's office, serving as the executive administrative secretary there. We have got 4 library employees over at Vista del Camino, and they are supporting the social workers there as our human services department manages through what we're grateful to receive, the CARES funding and processing utility billing support, things of that nature. So our staff are there helping. We also have a librarian that is out at Pinnacle Peak Park helping the preserve staff. utility billing. We've been supporting utility billing, the planning department. At the beginning of COVID-19, economic development offered a small business assistance program, and we had 3 to 4 library staff supporting that, being on the phones, getting up to speed with all the information around that process to help the community. Interestingly enough, we've got a forecasting team. This team is made up of 2 library staff that do significant research on COVID-19 and how it's impacting the world, communities, cities similar to the city of Scottsdale. Then they report that out to the fire department, the police department, and ultimately the city manager, so that the city can understand and know what's happening and try to be on the forefront of COVID-19 so that our community can be prepared. So this is a lot of work. We're really proud of the work that they're doing. Recently, we have a librarian supporting the emergency manager to do research on emergency management and help him with some of his workload. As you can imagine, he's been taken away with COVID-19, so needed a little bit of support. We've had library staff at Human Resources, also at Solid Waste Services, helping out administratively. So really proud of how the library staff have not only helped our library system get through, but are going above and beyond and helping other departments, which, they're getting out of their comfort zone and working in a different department. So proud of that. We are in the midst of updating our library strategic plan that we started last year, and Chair Collins is on our review team, our review and update team. So wanted to let you all know our next meeting is tomorrow, and our goal is to get through this process by October to have an updated strategic plan, especially everything that's happened in the world. We have all decided that our goals here are still relevant and those will stay the same. Many of the strategies as well, but the tactics and how we're going to get this work done amongst COVID-19 and just how the community is feeling about COVID-19, those tactics are going to change. So I will share more on that as we get through that process. I also wanted to report out that what we are seeing, especially at Civic Center and mostly at Mustang libraries, a lot of areas in the community buildings are not open. So we are seeing an increase in people experiencing homelessness, looking for a place to take shelter and escape the heat. And we have been seeing an increase of people in need using the library. So Melissa Orr, Mandy Carrico, myself, we've all worked with our partners in Human Services, and we are going to be benefiting from a social work support from different areas that Human Services is working with. So I think the Phoenix Mission is one of those areas that is going to be offering a social worker support person to actually be on site in the library system to really be able to offer direct services to help people in need and are willing and able to take it. So we're very excited about that opportunity to be able to help some of these people who are struggling not just with pandemic, but the extreme heat. Civic Center and Mustang are also hydration stations. So it'll be nice to have that support. Online library cards. This has been extremely successful. And we have had, Mandy, I had my notes here. As you know, when this all started, people used to have to come into the library to get a library card. But with people staying home more frequently, then we had online library card renewals. So we have had, I want to say, well over 1,600 cards to date that people have registered for online. Oh, here we go. I have it exactly. 1,807 online library cards registrations since April 2020. Not only can you register and get a new and be a new library card holder, you can also renew your library card online. So 1,800 registered for library cards. We've had 1,600 renew their cards online. So our community is definitely taking advantage of the online resource. And speaking of online, I want to introduce the Scottsdale Public Library's new virtual library branch, and it is Pegasus, the winged horse. So as the leadership team, library staff were working with the public, and we were on our toes trying to meet the needs of our community, much of which is online and virtual. We really realized quickly that we need one spot for people to go to take advantage of the virtual programs. So this is just a snippet from the website. It is live. You can go to it and check it out. So we have our virtual programs, how you can get your library card, e-materials, learning and research, ask a librarian. So this is something, again, that we came up with to meet a need in the community, and we are very excited about our Pegasus Library branch. The other item here is employee care. We are paying very close attention to the amount of stress and anxiety that a lot of employees, not just in the library, but everywhere, are experiencing with online school. Do you feel safe at work? All the things that go into that. And we have got one of our priorities this year as a senior library management team is to make sure that we're checking in on our employees and making sure that they feel supported and are getting what they need to make it through this time. We're doing that with flexible schedules, talking about challenges, doing what we can to make sure we're still providing library service, and we've got buildings open, so we need employees here. But case by case, taking time to listen to what the challenges are of our employees to make sure we're listening and working with them to ensure success. And sometimes all it takes is a person to honestly just sit and listen. So we're paying close attention to that. Finally, as I get ready to get towards the end, and this is new, I put this in, I couldn't help myself. All of you didn't get this in your packet, but we had a meeting yesterday, and Ann Porter, who oversees our graphics and marketing, she had to share in the meeting that she is a member of a Facebook moms group. And in her Facebook, organically, people in the community were talking about the new grab and go books that the library is offering. And you'll see here what I think this was one of the moms. I'm a huge library nerd. I've always been so impressed with the drive-through and pickup through Scottsdale Library, but now they offer grab and go bundles for kids and adults. So give them a little bit of summary of interest. They'll come back with awesome choices. So just wanted to share that little positive bit of news about our library that's happening out in the community. So that was a lot for a director's report. I thank you all for your time. And again, I'll get in more detail about the system when we get to the annual report. Thank you.
Thank you, Kira. These reports are really well done, and we appreciate the level of detail you provide. Are there any questions or discussion on the points and areas that Kira has brought up?
I have a question. This is Janet. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, this is Janet Smigelsky. The social worker, will the social worker be in both Mustang, which I heard of, and also Civic Center Library?
Janet, this is Kira. Yes, they will. The intent is to alternate their time. We'll work with them on what works best and where the needs are in the library, but they're going to go where the need is. So yes, and there's need at both places. Right now, priority is Mustang, but yes, they will be able to go back and forth.
Great, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Other questions or discussion?
Yes, this is Frida. I have a question.
Yes.
Kira, I'm wondering if there is any special collection of materials that our community can access online or available that deals with COVID-19 information and maybe updates, some tips and guidance for our community.
That's a great question, Frida, and I will ask the senior library managers to chime in. What I know of specifically is not really just the library, but the city of Scottsdale in general offers COVID-19 updates through the city of Scottsdale's main webpage. So I know that that is an easily accessible resource for our community, but I will ask Mandy, Melissa, or Becky if they know anything more than that.
I have a question. This is Ruth. How is Pegasus being promoted within the community for the general public? Because it sounds like a very interesting project.
Right. Yes, great question. That has been promoted through the Scottsdale Public Library e-newsletter that goes out to, I do not know how many subscribers, but I know that the library has the largest base of e-newsletter subscribers, and it was featured in that e-newsletter. Obviously, it's on the website as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mandy, Becky, or Melissa, do you know of anything specific in terms of COVID in the collection outside of what the City of Scottsdale offers on the main webpage?
Hi,
Amy.
Kira, it's Becky. No, I think we're really directing people to the city's webpage since that information is continually updated and is the most current.
Thank you, Becky.
Kira, this is Melissa. The same thing here. We are keeping tabs on what the information is from the city because that's most relevant to our community, and making sure that our staff are informed through different trainings so that if any of that training would be helpful to share with the public, that it's made available to them as well.
Thank you, Melissa.
And then
Thank
Kira, this is Amy Herring. Just as a community member, also, you can go to that page and you can sign up for daily updates from COVID-19 from the city. So the city actually sends a daily update to all employees with new information that's posted on that page each day. But there's also an update that I receive as a community member also that you can sign up for, and it'll share many of those same things. So that is all available to anyone in the community.
Thank you. This is Frida again, just to follow up if I could. So I'm thinking about people in our community who may want to do some research around COVID and maybe want to know what links to outside sources are available. Information like that is really what I'm thinking about for research and informational development purposes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Frida, and I will take note of that as well. Thank you for that idea.
I neglected to introduce who I suspected was in the room, but that is Mandy and Becky and Melissa. And Frida, if you have not had the opportunity to meet them, I think everybody else knows their roles. They are part of the senior leadership team within the library staff and always add a great deal to our meetings and are really permanent guests. So welcome to you three as well. Any other questions or discussion on the director's report? Hearing none, let's go to the next item on the agenda, which has to do with the Scottsdale Public Library fiscal year 2019 to 20 review.
Thank you very much, Chair Collins. And this is a large presentation, and I know that you all got it in advance of the meeting, so please let me know if I need to slow down. I'm going to highlight the significant pieces of the information on each of the slides. The senior managers I've already asked to support jump in if I am missing anything or forgetting to mention anything important, but there is a lot of information, and I didn't want to read verbatim each slide because I know you did get it in advance of the meeting, but please let me know if you would like me to slow down or elaborate on any piece of this presentation. All right, so here we go, jumping into the 1920 annual overview. And just because of COVID-19, there is a little bit of information here on how this 1920 year experience is going to impact our future. So there is going to be a little bit of 2021 information in here as well. So without further ado, here we go. Now, of course, here, let's see, my computer likes to. I'm in slide mode. Give me a second, everyone. There we go. Oh, I was supposed to take those out, the page turning. Okay, so this is what the content of the presentation has in it. We're going to show the org chart, our strategic plan, which you saw a little bit of in the director's report. This, I feel like, is going to be an interesting part for everybody, COVID-19 and the impacts to the library. We're going to talk about and review budget, the metrics that we have collected, projects that we have worked on, outreach. Of course, we're going to highlight some of the things that have happened in the library branches. We're going to talk about our volunteers, and then we will wrap up the report. So this is the library's org chart, and what's noteworthy here is, and I'll talk about it in a bit, but we have had some deployments, we've had some part-time personnel reductions. So what you see here is our branches, the branches here and who's working. Below are some of our staff that are not working in that branch, that either that might be a position that is vacant, or there might be a library employee that is supporting in a deployment role. So I really credit Amy for wanting to show, here's who we have working right now in the system, but these are the employees that are library employees. They are supporting other areas of the city, or their position is still here, even if we're not allowed to fill it at this time. So a nice snapshot of the library's org chart. Again, here's an image of the strategic plan that we are in the midst of updating. So we really do try very hard. We spent a lot of time on this strategic plan, and we really are living the mission of putting people at the heart of dynamic library services. That's our mission. We really make a point to put that on meeting agendas. And when we're trying to make decisions, we really think about our mission. We think about our priorities. These goals have really guided our system and the decisions that we've made as a team. And in my opinion, this has been very successful. So we're proud of this plan. We use this plan. It's fluid. It is changing as we speak. So something that the system is very proud of. All right, here we go, COVID-19 and library impact. So we closed our branches on March 18th. That's when we shut everything down while we were just entering into this public health crisis. We did continue to do our drive-through service despite the branches being closed. We weren't able to do anything initially here at Civic Center because there was not a drive-through, but as we all know now, we have met that need with curbside. But where we could, we offered drive-through services. So even though buildings were closed, our community could still access library books. We did have pretty immediate staffing reductions that we were directed to do from our city manager. There was a lot of concern about the economy and how that was going to impact the entire city of Scottsdale, especially with COVID-19 hitting right at the height of spring training, tourist season. We knew that that was going to be a big impact to city revenues. So right away, everybody started tightening their belts, and that included the library. What that looked like for us was unscheduling of part-time staff. So we had a group of people and we had branches closed. So there wasn't necessarily a business need for a lot of part-time staff to be on site. So we had a lot of our employees that went, they were still active employees on a frozen list. Those employees would serve in deployment roles. So we really did our best, and actually were very successful with, if you were unable to be scheduled at the library due to the closures of the buildings, we really worked to make sure as a city employee, you received hours elsewhere. And I just talked briefly about the deployments that happened, and a lot of our library staff part-time are serving in those deployment roles. So luckily people still have income coming in and they still have a job to do. They are still library employees. And when we make it through this, the intent is to bring those employees back to the library to work in the branch. So on June 8th is when we reopened Civic Center and Mustang branches with modified hours. So before this time, the library team did a ton of work to prepare our buildings to safely accommodate the public. So that really meant literally removing furniture, storing furniture, moving computers to make sure that we could enforce and encourage social distancing. We put adhesives on the ground. We work with our facilities department to make the safety shields at all of our service points, anything that we could think of to keep the public and our employees safe. We did a lot of that work before June 8th, and we really have to say our city facilities department played a big role in supporting those efforts. So June 8th, we opened and happily reported that people were, yes, being very respectful of the safety protocols, wearing the masks, and there now currently are some challenges with that as people, I think, are getting more and more comfortable to come to the library. But on June 8th, we did open. And as you all know, we've talked about this before, drive-through continues at Arabian and Appaloosa, as well as at Mustang and curbside at Civic Center. All right, and this, and Becky will chime in if need be, but we wanted to let all of you know how COVID-19 impacted our circulation. So between March and June, the physical circulation went down 52%. Interestingly, and maybe not surprisingly, is the e-material circulation went up 30%. Overdrive, music, magazines, Acorn, TV, Hoopla. So of course, as people were quarantining at home, e-material circulation went up. Obviously, physical went down with our buildings being closed and even with modified hour. And really, circulation levels do correlate to building hours being open. So when Becky and I have discussions over this, it's really interesting to compare the numbers on a day, say, for example, at Civic Center when the building is open, how much circulates compared to on a Tuesday or Thursday when we're still offering curbside, but the circulation is not as high. So we really are, it really is apparent that having an open building increases circulation. One of the areas that is down significantly that we were trying to address with the book bundles for youth and for adults, but really was our youth circulation. Was low as well. And of course, we know that little people like to come in, browse the collection, look at the picture books and pick out their materials. So we have seen a decrease in youth circulation. And again, we're trying to address that as best we can. Again, the good news, online library cards, online renewals, increase in holds. People are using the virtual services to have access and to get library materials. I really like this slide, and I know the pictures are a little blurry, but really we were one of the very few systems that continued to provide library services and were one of the first to open up branches. So some of the ways that I really feel were innovative and acted with care is we worked hard to continue to offer library service, and everyone, that was hard because there was so much unknown about COVID-19 and how to safely provide services, even through a drive-through window. So that was a challenging time for us to make sure our employees felt safe, the public using the drive-throughs felt safe. One of the things that we did based on the research that was coming out at the time was we would quarantine the books that came back for 72 hours before putting back in circulation. Work to enhance our drive-through service. We started doing the virtual programming. We did the furniture modifications, and we really spent a lot of time communicating with employees and the public about what library service is going to look like amidst a global pandemic. Obviously, increase the online services to the public. We've talked about employee care, but this was a big one for us to make sure our employees knew that we were doing everything in our power to make sure that they stay safe. You'll see a picture here of the safety shields, which I know we've probably all seen when we're out grocery shopping. So all those things we did. And then of course the deployment. So we really made sure that people still had hours and were working during this time. Okay, so here's where 2021 comes in, and I already talked about uncertain economy, direction from City Council, City Manager. This is how the 2021 budget was impacted in the library system. So these are our reductions. Personnel services, 7.4% reduction. What's important to know about this number is we did phase out of Palomino Library. So a big chunk of this is the personnel associated with Palomino. No current employees lost their positions. We basically absorbed them back into open areas of our library system, but then the positions that they sat in were, those positions were eliminated to provide savings with the phase out of that library. Contractual services decrease of 15%, commodities 40%, and yes, that is a big number. The part of our budget that took the biggest reduction hit is the collection budget. So we are working to make it through that. And I'll have a future slide here that I inputted after you all received this report, just to explain a little bit more about how the library compares to the rest of the community services department. Capital outlays, while there were no reductions, our big capital improvement project was a story time room here at Civic Center Library. All CIP projects were put on hold. And right now, as we speak, those CIP projects are getting re-estimated and reprioritized. So I am working with our CIP staff to get that story time room back on the list. We had already been in design mode. We had paid an architect. So basically, we were mid-project and getting ready to start construction when we had to pause. So we are hopeful that this CIP rises high on the priority list to be completed sooner than later. But right now, that's the information I have on CIP. So just for perspective, this is the Community Services adopted fiscal year 2021 budget and the expenditures by department. So you'll see here how these resources are allocated. Parks and Recreation, Human Services, here's our library system, Westworld, Community Services, Planning and Admin, and the Preserve. These are all the different departments that fall under Community Services. And of course, the library is in that pie. So we were not the only ones to experience reductions. I just wanted to share, this is from the budget book, which is available to the public. And this gives a nice little snapshot of just how budgets were impacted coming up in 2021. So you'll see here the library system, what our change was. Human Services, very close. Parks and Recreation, these are their reductions. The Preserve, and then Westworld didn't have reductions. And I'm, of course, not an expert on what's happening there at Westworld, but I did just want to, for perspective, show this image of how Community Services as a whole was impacted with reductions. And this, of course, is just a snapshot from the budget book. And this, everyone, I did include the slide after the fact, just because I wanted to paint a clearer picture in terms of impacts to the budget. So now we're going to get into library expenditures. And again, ask me to slow down if you need me to. But here we have the library's general fund supports the library here. This is our non-general fund. And right here, non-general fund, and I'm going to refer to my notes so I make sure that I'm accurate and clear with everyone, because a lot of times people will have questions about what non-general library fund expenditures are. So those are things like our special revenue account, endowments, the Rasner endowment, which Becky's going to talk about later, any grants that we receive, anything that's not general fund related will fall into this sliver. The rest here is the city's general fund, and this was for 1920. So right around 9 million. All right, so here is how that general fund and our expenditures are broken out. Commodities, personnel being the biggest piece of the pie here, contractual services, capital outlays. And these are the non-general fund that we were talking about. So library materials, and this is supported by the Rasner endowment. I think that's what that number there is. So non-general fund. Staff development, we have been recipients of several grants that have helped us provide some of these other services here that we did not have to charge the general fund for. And now we're going to get into some of the metrics here. And this really compares our physical circulation to e-circulation since 2014. And at this time, I neglected to mention this, and I meant to introduce on the call is Natalie Mitchell. Natalie Mitchell is a perfect example of one of the library staff that is working in a deployed capacity. So Natalie is serving as in a deployment fashion as a management analyst for the library. We had a management analyst position vacant. She is serving. She helped come up with this beautiful presentation. So I did ask her to chime in if there was something she wanted to add. So this beautiful slide is thanks to, thank you very much to Natalie. So here, what is important to note here is that there is an increase in the e-circulation, decrease in the physical. Circulation trends, I'm going to give everybody a second to digest this slide. I know it took me a second to read through this. This here in the blue is the physical items, and we're comparing 1819 to 1920. The pink here is the e-circulation. So again, you're going to see from last year compared to this year, we are up. Total circulation, we are down just not too bad, I don't think, but actually this is, impact of COVID-19, of course, as well. So a nice little way to look at just the circulation trends by physical and e-circulation. Focusing more on e-circulation, here's just a look at what some of the e-circulation items look like. And Becky, please jump in if I'm not elaborating further or enough. Acorn TV, wow, very popular here. So just to take a look here at the e-circulation. Moving on Getting specific here, Ecirculation by platform, Overdrive, Freegal, Freegal Downloads, Hoopla, Zinio. So this is just a continuation of our Ecirculation numbers, comparing 1819 to 1920. So we are seeing a decrease in physical circulation, and this is just comparing 1819 to 1920. And while there is a bit of a decrease here, you'll see that pretty similar, and as I look at this slide and these pieces of the pie here, but this is circulation 1819 and then 1920. And this is what is making up the physical collection here. These are the items: fiction, nonfiction, audio, DVD, and music. Okay, these are total new items added to the collection, about 41,000 new collection items, self-explanatory. Books on CD, CD music, DVDs, Blu-rays. I think this is supposed to maybe say audio kits, culture passes, and of course, books. This is our Interlibrary Loan program, and you will see here, I would like to get to the notes here on the Interlibrary Loan as we move along. The trend is that the library borrowed more interlibrary loans than loaned out this year. If we look further at the breakdown, we see that we borrowed and loaned more ILLs in state rather than out of state. So these numbers were taken from the ongoing ILL report for our ILL statistics in 1920. So just some interesting facts there about the interlibrary loan. These are our facility rentals. So really what we mean here is when we're talking about library reservations, there's internal, so that would be library programs booked by library employees. And then we have the external, which would be homeowners associations, people privately booking the library rooms for their own use. So here is, and that is a source of revenue for the library. Here are the hours reserved, which not surprisingly have gone down, especially since we closed everything up in March. And right now, a lot of our rooms that were reservable are serving as storage for all the furniture that we removed from the branches. So this side of the slide just shows the breakdown of revenue from the different branches. So here Mustang is in pink, 42% of the revenue from reservations came from that branch, 22 Civic Center, 11% at Arabian, and Appaloosa is in the green there at 24. And this is just the amount of hours reserved. These are our trackable interactions for the library system, and we've gone back all the way since 2012. The things to me that stick out on this slide is Wi-Fi usage. Back in the day, people would come to the library to actually use the computers. Now, most people have a device of their own, and they are looking for Wi-Fi. So you'll see that Wi-Fi number going up. Of course, 2019, there's going to be a downward trend in anything and everything due to COVID, but you can see computer sessions, how those numbers look, the programming, which of course was a sharp decrease, and then our total trackable interactions is down here for 2019. So these are the things that stuck out to me, just the Wi-Fi usage going up. Computer sessions, you'll see up here back in 2012, the bulk of everybody was coming in to use a computer, but now that is going down. Programming is obvious, that we're not doing too much programming. That halted in March. These are just the gate counts by branch. Let everybody take a look at that slide here, comparing 1819 to 1920. And again, I had to asterisk this, that this is obviously impacted by COVID. So the downward trend in our pink columns here is a direct result from that. This is just gate counts by quarter, another way to look at it for the different quarters. And then obviously gate count downward trend here. So those were the metrics and all the budget information. Hope I didn't go too quickly through that. But now on to library projects and initiatives 1920. We completed our strategic plan. We hosted our very first annual all library staff conference on October 29th. And what we did on Columbus Day was we closed down the library system so that we could focus on staff training. It was very successful. We worked with the Friends of the Library and had an official agreement now with them that was approved by City Council January 2020. Why that is important is because that agreement outlines how the library can market and support the Friends. And we've got a formal agreement by which we can do that. We started the Storytime Room expansion, the loft space here at Civic Center. We spent a lot of time, Melissa and her staff and staff at Civic Center, reconfiguring how that upstairs, formerly known as the Eureka Loft, now just the loft, can really accommodate more programming, adult programming specifically. Unfortunately, COVID hit just as we were finishing up with the design and the rooms. But when things do get back to air quotations normal, we will have a nice place to offer programming. And then, of course, the Palomino Library, which was a very significant project. The transition was complete by June 2020. So a lot happened, a lot of projects. Melissa Orr is in charge of library outreach and promotion. I love looking at these fun pictures. She works with a very fun group of people. These are just some of the things where the library participated and was out to support and promote the library. And continued here. What's important to me in this slide is that there is an increase in the amount of people that we're reaching with outreach and an increase in the events that we're participating in. And a part of our strategic plan was really being thoughtful about what we're participating in to make sure that we're just not having a booth out there, something that might not be very relative, for the library to be at. So library outreach right now with some of our buildings being closed is more important than ever. We want to meet people where they are at. So we are keeping that at the forefront of our planning. Library outreach will be important. These are the branch highlights. And I just want to check in on everyone. Is my pace all right, everyone? Hope I didn't put everybody to sleep out there.
No, it's fine.
You're
Go
still
ahead,
there.
Claire.
Okay, all right, perfect. Just wanted to check in with everybody. Branch highlights. I like slides that have good pictures in here. Here's a picture of the curbside pickup at Civic Center so people know where to go. Right here, everyone, very proud about this. Look at these two young people. This is the new 3D printer that we have here at Civic Center. And I was just talking about the loft. This is one of the spaces upstairs at Civic Center that was repurposed in the loft. All right, and I'm going to get to my notes here. Our branch highlights from Arabian coming at you. Since I can't see them. Okay, and here we go. Sorry about that. All right, so Arabian Library added the call center this year with the phone system being installed and programmed in February. So that really means the staff at Arabian could help support all the call volume that comes in. Building news, staff created several eye-catching displays throughout the year that promoted the library's collection, including a salute to the state and Valentine's Day. Programming, lots of in-building programming was happening at Arabian until things stopped due to COVID-19. But just to remember what some of those programs were, Scottsdale Bakes happened there. Do you know the Muffin Man? Book discussions and a lot of other fun things happened at Arabian Library. So it's nice to see pictures with people in them and kids. This is one of our favorite pictures. This is a picture of Appaloosa Library. It is a picture of the drive-through. And I'm going to read the snippet here. On Wednesday, July 8th, Appaloosa helped 252 patrons at the window in a 4-hour window. So that, everyone, is less than 1 minute per transaction. So we were seeing lines at Appaloosa Library for the public to pick up their materials and things on hold that actually snaked all the way out to Scottsdale Road. So we addressed that by expanding our drive-through hours of operation, and that has helped. But the drive-through window does continue to be very popular, and with an average of serving 659 patrons each week at Appaloosa. Again, that number, 659 a week. This is a fun picture of Mustang Library. This is when we were doing the book quarantine and we'd hold the books out. This is Kate Malstaff, who works at Mustang, and definitely Mustang steps up to the plate. 18,799 cars came through Mustang drive-through from March to June. I'm going to say it again, 18,000, close to 18,799 cars between March and June. And comparatively, the same time the prior year, drive-through was 4,099. So in that same period. July's drive-through window count stayed strong with nearly 3,500 cars the month of July. And Mustang also was one of the buildings that opened up to the public in June, along with Civic Center, and quickly became the most popular library in town, welcoming both Arabian and Appaloosa patrons. Mustang's door counter tallied more than 30,000 hits since reopening the doors on June 8th. And again, I noted this earlier, but Mustang and Civic Center are also hydration and heat relief stations for the city of Scottsdale. So they offer cold bottled water to anyone in need. Also working with Human Services to have someone in the library a few times a week to help those in need. We touched on that in the director's report. That's the social service support. And right here in this corner is a picture of the drive-through at Mustang. All right, these are our volunteers. And right now the volunteer program, strictly because of COVID, is on hold. So the city of Scottsdale does not have any volunteers working with the city at this time. But in 2019, we were very lucky to be able to celebrate our volunteers at the annual volunteer luncheon. But quickly, 305 adults volunteered and worked 17,919 hours. So this is the value of that work to the city. We also have teen volunteers, 169 teen volunteers working a total of 2,861 hours. That's a $72,000 value. And then here's a picture of the luncheon, which is always one of our favorite times of the year. 169 volunteers attended that program. Our volunteers are critical to help running the library shop. So the semi-annual book sales, in addition to the library shop, and that revenue totaled $116,000, a 25% decrease in revenue from the previous year. And that was because we were not allowed, the bookshops closed when the branches closed, and we weren't allowed to couldn't safely host a book sale. So very proud of our volunteers. And with that, this is the second year in the row that the city of Scottsdale hosts an annual employee award ceremony. Part of that ceremony is recognizing volunteers. And this in 2019, the William P. Schrader Volunteer Impact Award went to Bob Fowler, who works with Becky's group. And Bob has volunteered between the Scottsdale Historical Society and the library for 8 years. So nice to have someone who's connected to both. This is pretty impressive. Since 2011, he has scanned, archived, and cataloged 1,582 historical photographs for the Metadata Services Department. So love this picture of him too. So we are anxious for our volunteers to be able to safely return. All right, everyone, I know that was a big report and a lot of information. Chair Collins, at this time, I'm happy to, me and the senior library managers will be happy to answer any questions.
Are there questions and discussion from board members, please?
Kara, this is Sheila Raymond. Can you address the change or impact not having fines will be on the budget? We talked about that before we put that into place for this year.
Right. And Sheila Raymond, that is a great question. Really right now, to be quite honest with you, we don't yet have enough data to collect, but we have been asked this question several times, not just by you, but by my supervisors as well. I don't have any information to share on that at this point, just because we really went fine free. What happened was, you know, that we ran the amnesty program that started in the spring, right when COVID-19 was hitting, and we were quarantining books. So it was really hard to measure and track how amnesty was working. July came along and we were fine free, but quite honestly, and sadly, fine free was really overshadowed by the spike in COVID-19 cases. So we have not had a chance to evaluate that data, and I'd like to get a few more months under our belt to do a comparison. We have had, and I'm sure you read some of the patron comments, the public very appreciative of being fine free, but I think my team would agree with me that we really did feel like fine free got overshadowed by COVID-19, and we do still want to celebrate and promote that fact. But to answer your question, I don't have specific data on that relative to the budget at this time.
Okay, I just wondered how the city council was supportive. I mean, they voted to allow for the fine free to go forward. I just wanted to make sure it didn't negatively impact our budget.
Okay, nope, thank you. Well, and again, kind of a hard question to answer because everybody's budgets were impacted. So because of COVID, so the intent was not to have our budget impacted by fine free, but our budget was impacted in the end anyhow because of the pandemic.
Mhm.
Thank you for your explanation. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Other questions?
Yes, this is Frida. I'm wondering if you have any data yet on where the patrons who went to Palomino went after Palomino closed. Was that distributed?
Okay. Oh, I just want to make sure that I'm okay. Great question, Frida. And I might even ask Mandy Carrico to chime in on that. Mandy, do you have an answer to that? Because I would say, especially with Palomino closing, Arabian closing, and Appaloosa being closed, that most of that patronage would go to Mustang. But I'm going to defer to Mandy to help me answer that question.
For that, we did offer a time period to let patrons know that Palomino was closing and to change their home branch. Anyone that did not change their home branch or indicate a home branch were automatically changed to Mustang. But like you said, with Palomino closing after the libraries closed because of the pandemic, we don't have a lot of feedback on that. So people were automatically changed to Mustang, and Mustang's numbers did balloon because they were taking on first Civic Center when they closed and had no curbside, and then after the opening, taking on the north side. So our numbers are skewed. Mustang definitely is now the busiest branch, and can't really tell wholly what factors went into that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
This is Melissa Orr. Just to let you know, also one thing we did do was move the book drop from Palomino Library around to Rio Montaña. And at first there was not a lot of drop-offs there, but we are finding that that has become an area of great drop-off location there. So we feel that they are using Mustang Library and returning their items at the Rio Montaña drop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was curious as to whether a significant number of patrons might have gone to Arabian instead, whether that was viewed as closer or not. I suppose we don't have the data yet because of COVID happening, but longer term, I guess we might have it.
Rita, but Arabian is closed.
Right.
Right, but I mean, in terms of moving their home library.
Yeah, Frida, this is Mandy, and it's hard to say because we closed in March, and and Palomino wasn't supposed to close until the end of June. So those who would have chosen didn't get to choose, and so that's why we can't really tell where they would have ended up.
Okay.
And also, we might be able to tell after everything opens if people shift their home branch to Arabian, but that will be some time.
Okay, thank you.
Good questions all. Any others before we move on? Hearing none, the next item is our patron comments, always interesting and diverse. Would staff like to speak to any of these, or are there any questions regarding them?
Chair Collins, this is Kira, and I would just like to make comment if I could at the beginning.
Please, go ahead.
And one of the reasons, as you know, Chair Collins, we usually put the patron comments towards the top of our library board agenda. I wanted to talk a lot about the COVID-19 and everything that's been happening in the library, and I asked Amy to move the patron comments down a little bit because when we went through these, what really was apparent to me was the appreciation from the community for the library working to be open, throughout this pandemic. And I know that there were a lot of comments to read through since we had over the summer as well, but overwhelmingly to me, which I mean, quite honestly, sometimes our comments can tend to go toward the negative side, but this was one of the times that I've noticed so much positivity in the patron comments. And I just wanted to make note of that.
This is Janet Smigalski. I have a couple of questions. The first one being on page 11 and page 13, there were comments that Mustang does not enforce their mask. mask requirement, especially for the homeless. Can you comment to that? Because, you know, we don't get to see what goes on in the library anymore. I don't. And I was just curious why two different patrons commented about specifically about Mustangs.
Yes. Board Member Smigelski, I will answer that question and Mandy can chime in. Really with the mask wearing, it really almost reminds us of the time with people using service animals. Really the rule is, or the recommendation is, that you have to have a face covering when you're coming into the library, and library staff really work hard to enforce that. But as you know, per the mandate, that there are some exceptions to that rule. If you have a health situation that makes it difficult for you to breathe with the mask on, and when a member of the community will note that as a reason why they can't keep their mask on, we really can't enforce them. We cannot make them put on their mask because of that. So that is definitely a challenge. We've had to talk with our legal department. You know, what do we have the authority to do in that situation? We've got masks on hand to offer to people, but the truth of the matter is, if they say they have a health condition that prohibits them from being able to wear the mask, our hands are tied with that. Mandy, am I accurate in that explanation?
You are, and I'll also add that the staff are constantly reminding all the patrons in the library, and there's a lot of patrons versus how many staff are on the floor, to put the mask over their mouth and nose. And the staff have found that they have to go back and they have to say it again and again. And we do have a process where it's the same as any other rule that they're breaking, where after being reminded, then we go to a behavioral warning letter, then we go to a trespass for not following the rules. And we do know with the mask, just like in the community, there has been some resistance. We enforce it, especially we encouraged it before the mandate. We enforced it after the mandate. Some people are really sensitive anytime any rule is broken. So I will say the staff have been diligent about reminding, but that education, that reminder, and the process to have them removed may not be quick enough for some patrons.
No, this is Janet Smigelski. I totally understand, because we don't want to put the staff in a very difficult situation. As we've seen on the news and things, when people don't want to adhere to a rule. So you don't want that confrontation. My only other question about the patron comments, you did, Mandy, changed the computer usage to unlimited. How has that been working out? Because I noticed a couple comments. Have there always been enough computers well, especially at Civic, but now of course at Mustang, are there enough available computers now that there's no time restriction?
And this is Mandy. Gina, I'll answer.
Yeah.
There is a time restriction during this time of COVID.
Oh,
we
there is.
originally,
I didn't know that.
we changed it to unlimited and before COVID hit, because it was a resource that could be unlimited and still be fairly passed out, like fairly used among the public. Once we went to COVID, we did move to an essential only type of service. So everyone has a 1 hour limit per day to encourage coming in and doing the essential and then leaving. We don't want to encourage long-term staying because we want to make sure there's enough room for people to come through and use the library and not stay too long and create a more dangerous situation.
Oh, I didn't know that. Thank you very much.
And it'll be in effect until the community spread is no longer a threat.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
This is Sheila Raymond. I just have a comment. Kira, you and the staff are doing a phenomenal job navigating this. The use of the library, as I tell people that our libraries are still open, and how you're functioning and you're adapting. You don't just stay with, this is how we're going to do it, and you have this border. You actually are looking to see how you can modify, and I can see that in the patron comments. And I am very proud of you guys, and I hope you know that we are very appreciative of you. And to be a part of the library board is a great challenge in and of itself, but then throw this pandemic and COVID and the kids and school and the adults and jobs, and you guys are just doing a great job. Thank you so much.
Here, here, let it be noted that the library board acknowledges and recognizes with pleasure the adaptability of the library staff. We're all proud of you.
The feeling is
Let's
mutual.
let's move on to the library loan guidelines policy update. Mandy, it's you.
Okay, and Mandy, I'm going to pull it up on the screen. Library loan guidelines. I'm hoping everybody can see that clearly.
Thank you, Kira. And I can just ask you to scroll
Definitely.
as I go through. So this is another policy change that needs to be updated in light of going fine-free. This is the loan guidelines. So once again, I highlighted any additions. I struck through any removals so that you could see the original and then also what's been changed in this document. So I'll just go through and go over the changes. And if you have any questions at the end, I'll pause for questions or comments. So the first change we made is that we added some verbiage to loan of materials to address now being fine-free and how that will work. The verbiage added was loanable materials have a maximum of 6 renewals. Loaned materials are considered lost when not returned 10 days after the due date. Accounts with lost items will be charged an actual cost for each item. Returning the item in good condition will remove the cost charge. Then in number 3, we also struck through the words when fines are not paid, it's no longer relevant. And we have added fees are not paid. And as a reminder, fees are the cost of items when they're lost or damaged. And fines are what we used to charge when items were overdue. The next change we have is under procedures. Number 2, we struck through fine notices. I'm sorry, let me talk about number 1. There's a change there. We struck through that these accounts incur a collection agency fee. We no longer, as of June 1st, charge any collection agency fees. For item number 2, we struck through fine notices, the entire number, because that no longer applies. And then the next change is in number 4, we struck through fines so that it would now read staff are responsible for any lost or damaged charges that are incurred. And I'll pause and open this up for any questions or comments.
And Mandy, this is Kira. This is an item 2 that I was looking at the agenda that you do want a library board approval.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, this is a policy change for approval.
Any questions?
Yes, it's Frida Hartman. I have a question about that first change on number 1. Was the intention there having the loan materials considered lost when not returned 10 days after the due date? Was the intention there that to be 10 business days or 2 weeks, or what was the intention?
10 calendar days.
10 calendar days, okay.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the changes as noted?
I
Sheila
motion
Raymond,
to, oh, go ahead. Go ahead,
sorry,
Sheila.
Dan. Just
Go
that
ahead,
I
Sheila.
motion to go ahead and accept these changes.
Do I hear it? That was Sheila Raymond. Do I hear a second?
This is Janet Smigelski. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Mandy. Next, we have Becky, who's going to talk about interlibrary loan policies.
Hi, everybody. So we are bringing some very minor revisions to the interlibrary loan policy to you for review and hopefully approval. We had a chance this summer to just work on this policy. It has not been updated for 6 years, actually. And we just wanted to add some clarification about some of our services based on feedback we've gotten from patrons. So, for example, one of the things that is mentioned is that if a article is requested, that they would receive an electronic copy. You see that under the definition. So people didn't realize that we wouldn't print something out and present them a physical copy of an article if that was requested, that instead we would email that article to them. We've changed the word customer to patron. We made that change a few years ago, and so we removed customer anytime it was referenced and then added patron instead. And then there's just a few other minor clarifications. We added audiobooks as something that's not included in Interlibrary Loan. That was not specifically called out, but we wanted to add that clarification. So these are all just minor updates, but again, our desire was to provide additional information and clarification to our patrons. And so we are bringing this for your review this evening.
Any questions or discussion? Pretty straightforward, I think. Do I have a motion to approve these changes as noted?
Ruth Wax, I make the motion to approve as noted.
Do I hear a second?
Janet Smigelski, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Now, number 7 is something I always like when the board is being asked to accept money. So if we can have Becky speak to that. Next item, please.
Yes, thank you. So this is the time that we come to you each year to ask that you accept the interest that we've earned on the Rasner Memorial Endowment. This year, our interest distribution is $18,000. In order for us to move forward with paying or receiving those funds, we first need the library board's approval, and then we move on to city council. So what you see on your screen is the city council report. We have this on the agenda for October 6th. Hoping that we'll have your approval this evening. The request that Ruth Rasner established with this endowment was that half of these funds would be used for the collection. And so $9,000, this gives us $9,000 to use towards the library collection, which will be much appreciated this year. The other $9,000, we are planning on using that for equipment to support Open Plus or any other variety of equipment needs we're going to have this year. So I'll open up for questions. Again, this is just interest income from the endowment, and we do this each September and at the beginning of our fiscal year so that we have most of the year to spend these funds.
This is a hard one to argue with. Do I have a motion to approve acceptance of such funds?
This is Sheila Raymond. I move that we accept these funds.
Do I hear a second?
Ruth Wax, I second the motion.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The acceptance of the Rasner funds then is approved. Let's see, are we all ready to identification of future agenda items? And I'd like to begin if I can. During a brief orientation and really lovely discussion I had with our new board member, Frida, we talked a bit about how we can increase our impact in the community and certainly with council members who have, city council members who have so much sway over library operations and directions. And I'd like to put on the, we've talked about assigning people to various council members before. I haven't really come to grips with action items on that. So I'd like to put that as an agenda item for the October meeting. Perhaps it could be titled Increase Board Member Community Involvement or something like that. Other items for October. Kira, do we have, or Amy, if she's still on the line, do we have any standing items for October?
I was just trying to quickly reference the calendar, and I'm wondering if Amy, is it in our board folder?
Actually, I'm heading right there. I apologize. This would have been part of the packet I would have given everybody, so I might have neglected to enclose that with.
I was trying to do a quick look here. Comment.
Yeah, if we can, Amy, let's include that even in the electronic.
Yeah.
If we have to do it as a separate item, that would be great.
Okay, perfect. Let's see here. So for October, the only topic we have on there is fall in the library system, which would typically cover fall programs that were happening. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Frida Hartman. I would like to ask if we could consider maybe a topic around the new world of collection development, what that looks like.
I think that's a great topic, Frida. Remind me, Kira, who has primary responsibility for collection development overall?
That is Becky Gallivan Butler, who
That's what I
just
thought.
presented. Yep, I am taking note on all this too, and even going back to fall in the library, I wanted to also recommend. I did take note, Frida, collection development, and I also thought it might be interesting if the board is interested. We've been doing a strong focus on virtual programming, so while we're not doing a lot in person, I thought it would be interesting for you all to take a look at some of the virtual things that we've been doing.
That would be excellent. That would be part of it. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other items? We always end up with a full agenda, but we appreciate in particular the board's members' input.
This is Sheila Raymond. This isn't an agenda item, just a point of just to bring something up. Right now, according to the website, the two board positions that we talked about are not coming up for the next confirmation or appointment listing in October. And Rommel Cordova, who's the management assistant for City Council, did state that just as we had dealt with this in the spring, that until the person is replaced, the original member remains as a board member. So I just wanted to point that out because we do have the two positions that we referred to earlier, and neither one are listed for the October. Actually, it would be in November because they're accepting applications through October 30th. So just wanted to put
Amy,
that there.
thank you, Sheila, for bringing that up. I know that I asked about that, and
Correct.
you, I believe, had checked. And
Yes.
I thought the information I presented was correct, but perhaps that's not current.
No, you are correct. And I just did check out the city webpage also this week and found the same thing you did, Sheila. The cutoff date for the applications for the October meeting was September 4th. So there were 2 open positions available. There were 2 people who had applied at that time, and their appointments will be on October 20th, which is the night before our board meeting. So they won't have time to be sworn in, but we will have them identified and we will know who they are. And at that point, Ruth and Allegra are also welcome to and would be a voting member at the October meeting.
So what you're saying is, Amy, that this is Sheila, that we have 2 positions open that they knew, somehow they've been notified that Ruth has not reapplied because she didn't make that deadline, nor did Allegra, of the 4th. And so we have 2 candidates for 2 open positions, i.e. Allegra and Ruth's.
Correct.
All right.
But they, Allegra and Ruth will still be active members at that meeting because of timing on that. So you're absolutely correct. So we don't show any current openings on the board. If you were to go to the council's website, City Council website, board listings, because they've already closed the listings for our 2 available post-its.
Okay. So the applications were the applications from before that they just remained in the queue.
No, there were 2 new applications.
Oh.
Separate from the group that was presented when you applied, Sheila.
Okay. All righty. 2 new people coming in and 2 exemplar members leaving us. So we'll take care of all of that in the October, November meetings. Barring any other agenda item input, we'll go to board member reports. I'll start with Janet because I know you wanted to talk a little bit about your involvement as our board liaison with the Friends group.
Yes, I do. I'll just make this very brief. The Friends had their meeting on Tuesday, the 8th, as it's the second Tuesday of every month. And the highlights were that very active, very, very active, this group. Number one, they're postponing the Spirit of Literacy Award breakfast until 21, of course, because of COVID. Number two, they're participating in the Thunderbird Birdie for Charity event, where donors can pledge money per hole, like a walkathon, for every birdie made during the Phoenix Open. All donations will go to the Friends. Three, they are printing a new membership brochure, one that is generic and doesn't highlight specific initiatives. Four, they are also coming out with a bookmark that will help brand the logo and the name of the Friends. They're going to do about 10,000 bookmarks that should be available in the near future. They are hosting their first book club this month, and the next newsletter will be distributed in October. So that's what's going on with the Friends. Oh, and they've been working on the website. I encourage everyone to take a look. They've done an excellent job. So thank you. This is Janet.
Thank you, Janet. And again, if you're not already a member, I encourage all board members or all library enthusiasts everywhere to join the Friends. It's really a nominal fee, and it's wonderful for us to show our support of that revitalized group. Other reports from any other board members?
I just have one other comment. I attended the virtual Scottsdale town hall discussion, and it was titled "The Dangers of a Single Story," and it was put on by by the Diversity Inclusion Program Manager in the city of Scottsdale. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other reports? Hearing none, I thank all of you for your active participation in the September meeting, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Ruth Wax, I make a motion, which may be my last, to adjourn the meeting. And it has been a great pleasure to work with all of you.
We hope you'll be at the October meeting. So
I
we can
will.
Sing your, all right,
I
we'll sing
will.
your praises more fully then, Ruth. But thank you.
Thank you.
A second?
A second. This is Sheila Raymond. Thank you, guys.
All in favor of adjournment?
Bye.
Thank you very much. Have a great month.
Thank you, Library
Thank
Board.
you.
Have a great month.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You guys did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Brian Hancock, this is where I'm not sure how, do you want me to end the meeting?
All right.
Okay. I know, I think Brian's still on, but he might be busy. I wasn't sure if we were,
Are we still live?
We could still be live. And I see here that I can end the meeting, which I suppose that I will do.
All right, click
Says in
that.
here. I'm going to click that end meeting for all.